Hi everybody, in this video we are going to be going through questions 1 through 12 from the June 2019 Regents exam. All right, let's take a look at number 1. On the set of axes below, triangle ABC is graphed, and we have triangles A prime, B prime, C prime, and the same with the double primes after a sequence of rigid motions. Our job is to identify which sequence of rigid motions is going to map the pre-image onto the first image and then onto the final image. So when I look at the pre-image where I'm starting is ABC, going to A prime, B prime, C prime, it looks like to me that it has been flipped upside down, and a flip is always going to indicate a reflection. From here, it looks like it turned. Turn is a keyword for rotation. So we had a flip and turn, or really we're going to call that a reflection and rotation. So choice 4. Number 2, the table below shows the population and land area in square miles of 4 counties in New York State at the turn of the century. Which county had the greatest population density? So that formula for population density is just the population divided by the area. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to create a third column here, or a fourth column, and calculate these population densities. So I'm going to divide the population of each of these counties by their area in square miles. And I'm just going to jot down what it is, 283.7, and I'm going to do that for each one. Okay, so that's what we got for Broome County. Now I'm doing Dutchess County. That one gave me about 349 or so. And if you have your calculator there, it's not necessary to jot down all of the decimals. This is multiple choice, so we don't need to show this work. 420 or so, and the last one. And that one gave us about 247. So we're looking for which one gave us the greatest population density. The highest number is the one for Niagara, so choice 3. Number 3, if a rectangle is continuously rotated about one of its sides, what is the 3-dimensional figure formed? You can memorize this answer if you want. It is cylinder, choice 2. Choice 1 is never going to be possible for one of these answers. Any of these rotation questions has to have something circular about the solid that's formed. And a rectangular prism doesn't have anything solid. But here's what's happening. If you basically have a rectangle and it's continuously being rotated about one of its sides. So picture like a revolving door in your head. It's going this way and it's going around. There's that circular piece, and you can see that that looks like a cylinder. Number 4, which transformation carries the parallelogram below onto itself? So that means when it's carrying onto itself, that means it's going to land right back onto the pre-existing shape. So choice 1, reflection over y equals x. If you know your shortcut rules for your transformations, you could also use that here. So reflection over y equals x would be that you switch the coordinates. I'll jot these all down first and then explain. This would mean that you switch and negate the coordinates. 90 degrees counterclockwise would be when you negate y, then switch. And rotation 180 about the origin is when you negate the 2 coordinates. If you notice that diagonally, 4, 3, and -4, -3, those coordinates are negated. And -2, 3, and 2, -3, those coordinates are negated. That's going to give me my answer of choice 4 here. You could also get this by taking your paper that you're looking at this parallelogram on and turning it upside down. And you'll see that upside down is 180-degree rotation, and it appears to be the same shape. Number 5, after a dilation centered at the origin, the image of CD is C prime, D prime. If the coordinates of the endpoints of these segments are, C is given to us, D, C prime, D prime, what the scale factor of dilation is. So let's compare C to C prime. And we're going to compare D to D prime. We're going to find those corresponding coordinates, compare them. So one like little kind of formula you can use to find the scale factor is to take something from the image and divide it by its corresponding piece in the pre-image. So let's say, for instance, I take these two x coordinates. That's what I want to try. I would get 9 over 6, and that's 3 over 2. That's going to give us choice 1. Let's say instead I picked these two coordinates, -6 over -4. I'm still going to get 3 over 2. If I look at d and d prime, I'm going to get 3 over 2 no matter what. 6, a tent is in the shape of a right pyramid with a square floor. The floor has side lengths of 8 feet. If the height is 6 feet, what is the volume? So I would go right to my reference sheet. The volume formula for a pyramid is 1/3 capital B times H. That capital B is important because it doesn't mean length of the base. That means area of the base. So that is intentional that is capitalized in your formula. We want the area of the base. Well, the area of the base can be found by doing 8 times 8 because we know the base is a square. Area of a square is side squared or length times width. So the area of the base is going to be 64. So I have 1/3 times 64 and the height is 6. So in my calculator, I'm going to now just type that in. And I get 128, choice 2. Number 7, the line -3x plus 4y equals 8 is transformed by a dilation centered at the origin. Which equation could represent its image? First thing I'm going to do, I don't like that this given line is not in y equals form, so I'm going to move that. When I do that, I'm going to start by adding the 3x to the other side, and then I'm going to divide all terms by 4. So whenever you are doing a dilation, the slope never changes. So the slope of this line is positive 3 over 4. I know the slope of the new line must also be positive 3 over 4 then. So in this case, that is going to give me choice 2. That is the only equation with the correct slope. Number 8, in the diagram below, AC and BD intersect at E. Which information is always sufficient to prove the triangles are congruent? That means when you're proving triangles are congruent, you have to be confident that it's one of these 5 options. These are the 5 methods by which you can prove triangles are congruent. So I would go through each answer choice and see if I could match it up to one of these 5 methods. So I'm going to show you one that's incorrect, and then I'll show you the correct one so you can compare. For choice 1, if AB and CD are parallel lines give you alternate interior angles that are congruent, so I would have these 2 pairs. We can also infer that since these intersect, we have vertical angles here that are congruent, but this looks like angle, 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 and that is not one of our 5 options. So since this would give me angle, 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 that's not an option. I'm going to cross off choice 1. Let's look at what the correct answer is. So the correct answer is going to be 4. If BD and AC bisect each other, that means BD is split in half, AC is split in half. And again, we can infer those vertical angles, and that appears to be side angle side. Number 9, the expression sine of 57 is equal to, you can memorize that the sine of any acute angle is equal to the cosine of its complement. So the complement of 57 is 33. And we're looking for cosine, so choice 2. But this is a really easy one to use your calculator for. Type in sine of 57, type in each answer choice, make sure they match. So if I want to check cosine of 33, you see on my calculator here, I get the same answer. Number 10, what's the volume of a hemisphere that has a diameter of 12.6 to the nearest tenth of a cubic centimeter? So volume of a hemisphere is given to us on our, volume of a sphere is given to you in your reference sheet. To adjust it to a hemisphere, change that fraction from 4/3 to 2/3. They are giving us another little trick here that they're giving us the diameter is 12.6. That means my radius is half that, so 6.3. And I'm going to now plug 6.3 in for R. All right, so let's go and type this into our calculator. Common mistake that people do with any sphere or hemisphere questions is typing this wrong exponent. It's to the third power, not squared. And I get choice 1, 523.7. All right, in 11, in the diagram below of triangle ABC, D is a point on BA, E is a point on BC, DE is drawn. Now let's label. BD is 5, DA is 12, BE is 7. What is the length of BC so that AC and DE are parallel? All right, so what I'm going to do, we're looking for the length of BC, so I'm just going to put a big bracket there with X, is I'm going to draw the small triangle, and by the small triangle I mean BDE, and I'm going to draw the big triangle, BAC. So the small triangle has sides 5 and 7 that we know about. The big triangle has sides 17, add up the 5 and the 12, and X. Now that I have that, I can set up a proportion with the corresponding sides. So I have 5 and X are going to get multiplied by one another. 17 and 7 get multiplied and divide by 5. I get 23.8, and that is choice 1. If you wanted to, you could have also, just to show you another option, you could have done 5 over 12 equals 7 over X. That would have given you the length of EC, and then add the 7 back in to get the total length of BC. That would work too. 12 is just knowing your properties. A quadrilateral must be a parallelogram if, and we want to make sure that this means it must be a parallelogram, meaning it's not a rectangle or a rhombus or a trapezoid or any other quadrilateral. It has to be a parallelogram if one pair of sides is both parallel and congruent. This is one correct option. Another correct option could have been that both sets of sides are parallel or both sets of sides are congruent. If it's just talking about one pair of sides, though, you want that same pair of sides to be parallel and congruent to one another. Okay, you can head to the next video in this playlist to catch the answers to 13 through 24.